Welcome, ladies and gents. Rotten Tomatoes slammed for accepting money from PR firms to give positive movie reviews and scores. Funny. Very, 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 very funny. Funny and crap because Hollywood is massively, massively dominated by critics and their sort of weirdly unhinged response to things. They kind of want to please the critics. If they don't please the critics, they will bin off shows. It's strange. Hollywood, Netflix, whatever, loves to listen to critics. And yet now it's been shown that Rotten Tomatoes, a completely redundant website, yes, I know, I do use it here and there, but it's to compare like for like, has been accepting money. Interesting stuff. Let's take a look at this, ladies and gents. This is an article on The Vulture. The decomposition of Rotten Tomatoes, the most overrated metric in movies, is erratic, reductive, and easily hacked, and yet has Hollywood in its grip. So honestly, some pretty bold claims are being made here, ones which I firmly would believe. So yeah, hit subscribe if you're new here. Don't know if I said that or not. In 2018, a movie publicity company called Bunker 15 took on a new project, Ophelia, a feminist retelling of Hamlet, starring Daisy Ridley. That sounds like something critics would love, as well as the audience. No, the audience wouldn't love that. So critics who had seen an early screening had published 13 reviews, 7 of them negative, which translated to a score of 46% on the all-important aggregation site Rotten Tomatoes. A disappointing outcome for a film with prestige aspirations and no domestic distributor. But just because the tomato meter says a title is rotten, scoring below 60%, it doesn't need to stay that way. And it's actually happened to me. I have done this, it's actually been live changed when I've been making a video before. I'll be on Rotten Tomatoes looking at the reviews, it'll be low. I will click refresh or I'll click out on a page and then come back to the page and it will change or they'll delete reviews. It literally does it live. It's insane. But yeah, Bunker 15 went to work. While most film PR companies aim to get the attention of critics from top publications, Bunker 15 takes a more bottom-up approach, recruiting obscure, often self-published critics who are nevertheless part of the pool tracked by Rotten Tomatoes. In another break from standard practice, several critics say Bunker 15 pays them $50 or more for each review. These payments are not typically disclosed, and Rotten Tomatoes says it prohibits reviewers based on a financial incentive. Yeah, that's bollocks. So in October of that year, an employee of the company emailed a prospective reviewer about Ophelia. It's a Sundance film, and the feeling is that it's been treated a bit harshly by some critics. I'm sure sky-high expectations were the culprit. So the teams involved feel like it would benefit from more input from different critics. More input from different critics is not very subtle code, and the prospective critic wrote back to ask what would happen if you hated the film. Bunker 15 employee replied that, of course, journalists are free to write whatever they like, but that super nice ones, and there are more critics like this than I expected, often agreed not to publish bad reviews on their usual websites, but to instead quarantine them on a smaller blog that Rotten Tomatoes never sees. Right. I think it's a very cool thing to do. This is what they said. If done right, the trick would help ensure that Rotten Tomatoes log positive reviews, but not negative ones. Wow. So between October 2018 and January 2019, Rotten Tomatoes added 8 reviews to Ophelia's score, 7 were favourable, and most came from critics who have reviewed at least one other Bunker 15 movie. The writer of a negative review says that Bunker 15 lobbied them to change it, and if the critic wanted to give it a barely overall positive, then I do know the editors at Rotten Tomatoes and can get it switched. So yes, Rotten Tomatoes are implicated in this. A Bunker 15 employee wrote, I also discovered another negative review of Ophelia from this period that was not counted by Rotten Tomatoes, by a writer whose positive reviews of other Bunker 15 films have been recorded by the aggregator. Ophelia climbed the tomato meter to 62%. 62%. Flipping from rotten to fresh the next month. The distributor IFC Films announced that it had acquired Ophelia for release in the US. There you go, just like that. Boom, moneymaker. So Ophelia's production company, Covert Media, didn't return requests for current comment. Bunker 15's founder, Daniel Harlow, says, "Wow, you're really reaching there," and disagrees with the suggestion that his company buys reviews to skew Rotten Tomatoes. "We have thousands of writers in our distribution list. A small handful have set up a specific system where filmmakers can sponsor or pay to have them review a film." Yeah, it kind of... I mean, you're paying for reviews then, aren't you, dunce? Jesus. So the Ophelia affair is a useful microcosm for understanding how Rotten Tomatoes, which turned 25 in August, has come to function. The site was conceived in the early days of the web as a hot or not for movies. Now, it can make or break them, with implications for how films are perceived, released, marketed, and possibly even greenlit. The tomato meter may be the most important metric in entertainment, yet it's also erratic, reductive, and easily hacked. So the studios didn't invent Rotten Tomatoes, and most of them don't like it, says the filmmaker Paul Schrader, but the system is broken, audiences are dumber, normal people don't go through reviews like they used to. Rotten Tomatoes is something the studios can game, so they do. So Quentin Tarantino, whose next film is reportedly called The Movie Critic, admitted that he no longer reads critics' works. "Today I don't know anyone," he said. "I'm told Monala Dargries, she's excellent, but when I asked what are the 3 films she loved and the 3 she hated in the last few years, no one can answer me because they don't care." This is probably because Rotten Tomatoes, with the help from Yelp, Goodreads, and countless other review aggregators, has desensitized us. Yeah. So just to get into it a little bit more, you've also had other filmmakers, say that they hate it. Martin Scorsese, Brett Ratner, loads of people. Loads of people hate it. But despite Rotten Tomatoes' reputed importance, it's worth a reminder, its math stinks. Scores are calculated. I mean, they're taking money anyway. Jesus. Maths are calculated by classifying each review as either positive or negative and then dividing the number of positive by the total. That's the formula. That's ridiculous. So if a review shadows positive and negative, too bad. I read some reviews of my own film where the writer might say that he doesn't think that I can pull something off, but boy, is it interesting in the way that I don't pull it off, says Schrader, former critic. To me, that's a good review, but it would count as a negative on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, we've been saying this for ages. Isn't it funny? Mainstream media now saying everything we've been saying for ages. Amazing. Genuinely amazing. Now, they even comment on Ant-Man and the Wasp, right? So, granted, it's not rocket science or even particularly new, but the strategy can be surprisingly effective on tentpole releases, for which studios can leverage the growing universe of fan-run websites whose critics are generally more admiring of comic book movies than those who write for mainstream outlets. So, for example, February Tomato Meter score for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania debuted at 79% based on its first batch of reviews. Days later, after more critics weighed in, it sank into the 40s. But the gambit may have worked, because Quantumania had the best opening weekend of any movie in the Ant-Man series. Yeah, in its second weekend with the rottenness more firmly established, the film gross slid 69%. So basically, the studios are gaming the system by allowing fans to go watch their movie and then review it on their website of Rotten Tomatoes. Absolutely pathetic. Amazing, absolutely amazing. They even comment on the loosened the restrictions that they've had. The movie has been widely characterized as a response to long-standing complaints over a lack of gender and racial diversity on the site. I mean, this, it's absolutely broken. What an absolute joke. Absolute joke. So after I asked Rotten Tomatoes about Bunker 15, it delisted a number of the company's movies from its website and sent a warning to writers who reviewed them. In a statement, Rotten Tomatoes wrote, "We take the integrity of our scores seriously and do not tolerate any attempts to manipulate them." That is total bollocks. "We have a dedicated team who monitors our platforms regularly and thoroughly investigates and resolves any suspicious activity, and yet manipulation still happens. The question might be, is it making a difference where it counts?" But the people at Bunker 15 even said that they know people at Rotten Tomatoes. Outrageous. There you go. Absolutely slammed. Destroyed. Rotten Tomatoes. Allowing just gross manipulation.